Let's be real for a minute, because I know I'm not the only creator who gets totally burnt out by the tedious side of video editing. I have spent way too many hours staring at long timelines, hunting for those tiny moments of silence that just kill the pace of the whole video. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Those awkward pauses, the deep breaths between sentences, and the random stumbles that make a video drag. I used to think that was just the cost of doing business, but then I decided to see if Vizard could actually handle the heavy lifting for me. Spoiler alert, it was a complete game changer, because I just dragged my raw file in and let the app do all the work. The software scans through your entire track, finding all those dead air sections and tiny flubs you made during the recording. It does not just blindly cut at silence like a blunt instrument, which is honestly where most of these tools usually fail. Instead, it keeps the natural flow of your speech, trimming only the parts that truly drag the energy down. You can actually see the gaps it removed and how seamlessly it stitched those good takes together without making everything feel choppy. I saved myself at least an hour of mind-numbing manual work just by letting the AI identify those dead spots. Let me put my phone down and actually show you how precise this thing is when you zoom into the waveform. It doesn't cut right at the end of the sound, which would make the audio pop and crackle during the transition. Vizard adds a few milliseconds of micropadding, so every single transition feels smooth and sounds completely natural to the listener. It even recognizes those moments where I started a sentence, changed my mind halfway through, and started over again. Those aborted takes get removed automatically, so you don't hear me saying ugh or wait a million times in the final edit. If you really want to get into the weeds, you can open up the silence detection settings to tweak the sensitivity. The auto mode is usually enough, but I love turning off the auto setting so I can tighten the threshold myself. By sliding the threshold up or down, you decide exactly how much silence you want to keep or kill in your track. I usually nudge it until it cuts the dead air, but preserves those little intentional breaths that give the video rhythm. And if the algorithm ever trims something you actually wanted to keep, there is absolutely no drama involved. You can just click to select that spot and restore it in seconds, or drag the edges of the clip to adjust the timing. I do this all the time when I want to keep a longer pause for a joke or to build a little tension. It is surprisingly intuitive and honestly way more fun than fighting with a standard timeline for 45 minutes. Another feature I use constantly is the global padding control, which acts like a trim handle for your entire project. You can add and shrink or expand the silent buffer at the start and end of every single clip with just one simple adjustment. If you want your video to feel snappy and punchy, just pull that padding down to 0 and see the magic happen. If you want a little more room to breathe between ideas, just nudge it up and let the video slow down slightly. It is exactly the kind of adjustment I used to make manually, but now it applies to everything at once, which is a massive time saver. There is also a minimum duration setting that helps you treat shorter silences differently than longer purposeful pauses. If you're doing deeper edits, Vizard makes it incredibly easy to split a clip, slice the track, or remove tiny unwanted bits. Now, I get asked all the time about what happens after you clean everything up inside the Vizard interface. The cool thing is that Vizard is not trying to lock you into their ecosystem, so you are totally free to keep working elsewhere. You can export your cleaned sequence as an XML timeline, which is basically a lightweight roadmap of all your cuts and edits. That means you can bring the whole cleaned project into Premiere, Final Cut, or DaVinci Resolve without missing a beat. You just import the file, drop the XML into your project, and suddenly all your cuts are ready for color grading and fancy effects. Vizard handles the boring, repetitive parts of the editing process, so you can actually focus on the creative side of the work. But let's talk about the features that actually set this tool apart from the rest of the pack, because it goes way beyond just cutting silence. It is built to turn your long-form videos into snackable, viral-style clips automatically without you needing to do the heavy lifting. The AI identifies those high-energy moments and wraps them up into ready-to-post short clips, captions included. Instead of digging through an hour of footage for that one golden 30-second clip, Vizard does it for you in seconds. That feature alone is a massive time saver for any creator who needs to stay consistent on their social channels. And if you want to take it a step further, the auto schedule feature is actually wild for managing your content calendar. You set your posting frequency, pick the platforms, and the app will queue and publish everything based on your schedule. You do not have to babysit a scheduler or constantly move files between different tools just to get your content live. It is basically like having a tiny social media manager living inside your video editing workflow. I can batch approve a whole week's worth of content and completely forget about it while the tool does the posting for me. Now, I have tried other tools, and while some are cool, they often hide the best features behind expensive top-tier subscriptions. I personally need a tool that doesn't put limits on export resolutions or force me to pay for things I do not use. I edit on both a laptop and a desktop, so I need licensing that is flexible enough to move between my machines seamlessly. Vizard's licensing is focused on flexibility, which is huge if you are a creator who is always on the move. When you look at the ROI, the math becomes obvious because of all the hours you are saving on every single video project. Plus, they offer a free trial, so you can test it out and see exactly how it fits into your own editing workflow. The bottom line is simple. If you are making long-form content, Vizard is genuinely useful for speeding up your process. It is not trying to replace your whole editing suite, but it makes the boring parts automatic so you can do the fun parts faster. If you want a recap, it strips silence, finds viral moments, and exports to your professional software in a flash. I was so tired of manual edits that I gave this a shot, and it honestly changed how I approach my content creation. If you make tutorials, podcasts, or any kind of long-form videos, you owe it to yourself to make your life a little easier. The free trial lets you see if it fits your style, and honestly, there is no pressure. Just less editing pain in your future. I'm going to get back to finishing this edit, but trust me, your future self will thank you for making the change. Make your editing life a little less painful. Start creating more, and keep pushing those boundaries. Peace.